Hey guys, Mecha Knight here, and I recently went to another reality in the Warrior Net that's a bit similar to the BTD6 one, except a zombie apocalypse is happening. And I arrived in the middle of an ocean on a pontoon, and they explained how this had all started. 4 months ago, they told me, there had been an alchemist that hadn't left their lab in ages. Everyone was worried, thinking they had died in an accident, so they went to go check. The Prince of Darkness, the permabrew inventor, who had actually helped them coming up with a potion to try and make it even stronger and unbreakable, Sada and the spirit of the forest all cautiously went to see if they were okay. As Sada used her knives to open the door, a giant blue claw swung at her, scratching her arm. And then, the total transformation alchemist burst out the window. We obviously know it from the game, but these monkeys had never seen it before and they were horrified. They all rushed inside, tripping over each other. But as the giant abomination leapt around crazily, a potion flew out its hand into the lab, flying through the closing door and hitting Sada in the face. In the middle of the lab was a giant glass explosion covered in foam, a gooey pink foam. And then the potion seemed to be what had created this total transformation. As Sada's hair became spiky, she became blue and ripped her skin apart, jumping around the room with her knives. Sada swung at all of them, and they tried to get to the exit, but Sada kept trying to leap at them. Luckily, the spirit of the forest managed to create a wall of thorns to block Sada, but Sada managed to cut through them with her knives and bite the spirit of the forest. The permabrew alchemist and the Prince of Darkness were horrified, but then they both fell into the heap of thorns. They quickly rushed out after seeing the zombified spirit of the forest crawling up, with a giant skeletal hand reaching up for them, and Sada looking like she was having a seizure down there. They jumped out, grabbed a pontoon from the storage, and gathered up as many survivors as they could quickly, before floating away. Almost the entire town was covered in zombies and the pink foam from the total transformation spreading it. As they were leaving, the Prince of Darkness grabbed an injured Quincy, who had been hit with a falling debris and hadn't been infected yet, and, with the help of the permabrew alchemist and some engineers they had saved, they used all their materials to reform Quincy into Cyber Quincy in order to protect them. They were horrified at the Balloons continent. The Balloons had been invading forever, but they had never faced a threat this big. Then, a month later, they tried to get back to either find more survivors or in order to find more materials they could use to expand the pontoon. They rode round to the other side, and they left 2 monkeys on there to prepare for when they got back. They arrived at the resort on the side of a mountain, and inside was seemingly a lab covered in boiling liquids, glasses, and the pink foam in clumps as large as the monkeys themselves. They were confused, because these infected weren't at all intelligent. They were in a crazy, mindless rage. When they exited, carrying some of the materials to see what had been happening, a giant elongated megalodon burst out of the water. It was zombified as well. And then, on top of its head, was the megalodon summoner. Their face cracked, and you could see the monstrous body inside. They were covered in the goo. And as it leapt out the water, the zombified megalodon proved its might by grabbing one of the survivors with their mouth and flinging them across all the way to another side of a far-off mountain. They began to battle, though it wasn't an easy one. They had to avoid the mouths of all the infected and the flying potions as more and more zombies saw them and charged at them mindlessly. They could barely survive. Cyber Quincy was trying to take out the Megalodon, but all the arrows either bounced off harmlessly or didn't seem to hurt the mindless being as they clung onto its skin. But then, out of the crowd, came Pat Fusty. They could see his skin was being enveloped in the blue fur, but he seemed to still have some ounces of consciousness left, and whilst blocking the flying goo, he threw them all over to a mountain ledge where none of the zombies could find them. They were flying up, and Pat Fusty suddenly became one of the infected. His last ounces of stability and consciousness and energy fading away as he became a mindless, crazy beast. They began walking down to get back to the pontoon. They had got some materials, and they thought that was enough to head back now. However, on their way, they came across a forest covered in the pink foam, and they had to avoid it, along with a new threat that approached itself halfway through. They came across a monkey, seemingly drowning in the goo. They thought they might be able to save them before they transformed like Pat Fusty, so the Prince of Darkness rushes forward, but their foot gets trapped in a glob of goo. This creature bursts out, sticking to the goo, and it even had spots of glue covering it, and a melted costume it had once wore. It couldn't move, it was stuck to the ground, but it had a bucket full of the goo, and it chucked it at the Prince of Darkness. However, Cyber Quincy, proving he was programmed to protect them, leapt in front of it and let the goo cover it. It couldn't infect Quincy as they were practically dead, and the artificial intelligence aid installed was doing all the work, but it did short-circuit it and stop it working. The Max Brew alchemist threw an acid mixture dart to help them escape from the glue, and they ran off. One of the survivors grabbing Cyber Quincy, but it was too late. It was already dissolving. They got to the pontoon and they escaped. Now they're planning on going back again to try and find more survivors, maybe even further across the continent. And despite them hating the idea, they think one of the only ways to win might be recruiting the balloons. But for now, they're going to go all the way round again and try and find more survivors. Honestly, as they told me, I was scared, and I tried to help them expand the pontoon with their materials, but it seemed like they just didn't have enough yet in order to actually fit everyone on in a comfortable manner. So, they're heading back. They're probably doing it now as I'm recording this bit. I just wish them the best, as the zombie apocalypse, they're in a dire situation.